Rav Slanger Zatzal, Rebbeim of the Yeshiva Morev Rabosai. Chazal have told us that Mili Despeda are not appropriate after 12 months following the Petira. Thus, we are not gathered here to make or hear Divrei Hesped. So what is the purpose of a keynote such as this? I'm certainly not roy to speak to this question, but perhaps it's a combination of Yeshiva al Kivro and Sifsosov Dovros, as we learn from the words and deeds of my Rebbe Rav Slanger Zatzal, and hear from his family and the Gedolei Rosh Yeshiva and Rabbanim who knew Rav Slanger, lessons and insights that we can incorporate into our lives, and thereby being mala his great neshama while keeping him alive in our minds and hearts. 47 and a half years ago, I had the humbling zuchus of becoming a Talmud of the Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Slanger Zatzal. And my dear uncle, Rav Yosef Tendler Zatzal, told me that me and my chavrusa would be going to Rav Slanger's shir starting the next day. It was Rebbe's first year in Baltimore, and we learned so much from him. We were learning Maseches Gittin that Zman. And besides the shiurim in Iyun, my uncle gave the Bekiyas shir in the later Prakim in those days, we learned Malachim Beis, like I never learned Navi before or since. Rav Slanger became a Rebbe for life. Even after I left his shir and the several years of Chaburus that I was zocher to hear from him. Over the past 33 years, since we moved back to Baltimore, my relationship with Rebbe grew stronger as each year progressed, until the Yom Mar, 1 year ago, when the Ribbon Shalom saw fit to relocate Shoshanim and take him from us. As I mentioned, we were in Rav Slanger's shir, we learned Sefer Malachim. In Perek Vav of Malachim Beis, the Talmidim and Elisha Hanavi's yeshiva reported to Elisha that their Beis Medrash was too cramped to accommodate the phenomenal growth since Gehazi left, and they needed a new Beis Medrash. Elisha instructs them to follow through and build a new Beis Medrash, which, following one of Elisha's 18 miracles, was built on the banks of the Yarden. The planning for this beautiful Beis Medrash started the same way, because this yeshiva had outgrown its Beis Medrash. We certainly did not expect that the first use of the Beis Medrash would be Rebbe's Levaya, and that the first public kinus would be Divrei Zikaron for his first yard site. We will have the schus to hear Divrei Zikaron and Chizuk from Gedolim who knew and worked together with and interacted deeply with Rav Slanger over many decades. Moran Harav Aaron Feldman Shlita has been the Rosh Yeshiva of Bnei Yisrael through most of the early years of Beis HaMedrash and Mesivta of Baltimore, and as such, worked with Rav Slanger to maintain the sparkle on the crown of Torah which adorns our very special city. It is a tremendous kavod to hear from the Rosh Yeshiva.
B'shus Rosh Yeshiva, b'shus the Philadelphia Rosh Yeshiva, b'shus the Rabbonim, Baltimore and assembled from other places, b'shus the Bochrim HaChashuvim, Ramim the Bochrim HaChashuvim. As mentioned before, you don't say Divrei Hesped, but Yisoirus to what the chshivus of this yeshiva is a mitzvah to speak about. Be'er Chafaru Asori is a be'er of Torah. Asar b'Yisrael was chayfa, someone who had a masuras. You not just merely saw the Chazon Ish, but learned things from the Chazon Ish. Mother Gedolei Yisrael, grew up in Eretz Yisrael, which still had the Masoras of the European yeshivas. And built the yeshiva on those Yisayas. The Vilna Gaon says that the Memches Dvarim Shater Nikis Bahem, you can divide them into three groups. Limud, you have to learn Basmode. Stapkes Bemuad, you can't run after your taivas. You have to be happy with little. And Benod Machavere. The mitzvah Benod Machavere. All of the Memches Dvarim Shater Nikis are included, at least nearly all of them, under these three categories. The same thing is right after Matan Torah, right before Matan Torah, it says, B'chodesh HaShlishi, Tzeis B'nei Yisrael, Me'eretz Mitzrayim, V'yisum Midbar Sina V'yichanu Om Neged Ha'or. So Chaim says the same idea. This pasuk is to tell you what are the Tanoim for Kabbalas HaTorah. V'yisu Midbar Sinai, Vayavo Midbar Sinai, they came to Midbar Sinai, which is no Gashmias, and Midbar is no Gashmias. Vayichan Yisrael, they were believed Echad ki Ish Echad. It was Belod Machaveri. And they came to hear the Torah. Neged Ha'or, they came to hear Matan Torah. They came to learn. The same three ideas. Limud, Stapkes Bemuad, and Benod Machaveri. These are the three things that he himself embodied, and these are the three yesodis that the yeshiva is built upon. The yeshiva with the Ikir's Torah, there's no other koyach, there's no other she'ifah for a bocher. Besides to learn Torah and become a big Talmud Chacham, after a Gadol B'Torah. And you said this, naturally it's up to the Bochrim to work on that. Never can be perfect right away, but he was the embodiment of that, embodiment of the Edelkeit, of being considerate of others, and the model for the Bochrim to follow. And he stopped his B'muad. I was Gamud, never ran after personal covet or personal taiva. Interested just in being Ma'avetz Torah and Kaddish Shem Shomayim, was able to build up such a moised, koiches atzmai, such a siyata d'shmaya that he had to be able to build such a yeshiva, all because his koyach was. His drive was to make a Mokum Torah like he was used to when he grew up. Yeshivas, Eretz Yisrael, the yeshivas of Europe. V'zeiche Baruch Hashem to be matzliach, and like you mentioned before, the first public gathering is the Davenenu Harav on his Yortzeit. But we have to take heart from that. We have to be mischazik and think to ourselves. Gav was a Moritz Haye. He was a man that Kodesh Baruch Hu helped him with such siyata d'shmaya to build up such a beautiful yeshiva. Ahamim Mitziyonim. And Bochrim Mitziyonim, and a building is Mitziyon, such a Mitziyon Diki Yeshiva, has all the potential to produce Talmid Chachomim G'dolei Torah. We have to use this as a way to realize that we need to be Tomech in the Yeshiva, we need to help the Yeshiva, and the Bochrim need to learn B'yesa Seis, B'yesa Oz, and the Bochrim have to keep the Tanoim of Memches Dvorim Shater Niknis. You have to learn Basmode. You can't be Yosek and Gashmias. You have to be Mistabi Gemut. The Iker is they have to worry about Roma Chaverei. Yichan Shom Yisrael Yachal Ho, Neged Ho. There are sometimes Bochum to think that it's a mitzvah to be a Balgaive and to put down other people, other Bochum, other Shiurim. You have to know that all of that is possible. That's not a way that a person becomes a Talmud Chacham. This is the model, Dug Mechai, which Tzidai Zochen Levrocha gave to us. Kosh Baruch Hu should bench everyone, the entire community of Baltimore, and the Tzevet, the staff of the Ramim in the yeshiva, and G'dolei Torah that fill the yeshiva, under the tutelage of the Rosh Yeshiva, Shamatz Hatzlochat, Me'er V'esem Shonot, Mimaymida, Mokum Tovim Mefuah, and the Bochrim, they should be Zeiche, Hagdol Torah, Hadiro, to raise the Keren HaTorah in Baltimore and the entire world. And the Peres should come out that are Mesukim, that the whole world should taste from. And the Peres should have Peres, Abiyas Geil Tzedek Me'er Yamin.
Moran Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky Shlita had a particularly close relationship with Rav Slanger, which continues with the family, and he has been a tremendous guide to the Hanhola as it navigated its way to be mechazik and grow the yeshiva over the past year and into the future. It is a tremendous kavod to hear from the Philadelphia Rosh Yeshiva.
Shus der Yeshiva, Yeshiva Bnei Yisrael, Moran Rabbanon. Es ist nicht so leicht zu kommen zu es ist nicht so ein Testbett, aber man darf nicht denken. Immer ruft es an. Wir mögen sagen, die über Hespeda. Der Husband hat Grund kein Schier. Aber die Yeshiva von Baltimore, der Mond, Sachabi stellt am Mokum Teure. Es pushet Niflois Hashem, Niflois Hashem. Gekommen, schon mit schwerer Matzovim in Amerika. Er gemacht hat 2 Jahre in Philadelphia. Da ist gekommen zu Baltimore, Hashem, und so kommen in Israel. Und hat das Loch bei Hashem. Danach sagt, es ist die Hata, Yisatoy, die wollte machen eine Yeshiva. Ich habe schon angerufen, das Sonne Yisahore. Es ist Yisahore gewinnt, aber nach der Yeshiva wird gewählt wegstammen. Und hat es allemal so gerissen. Es hat gerissen, als was will von der Yeshiva. Und hat gewusst, Amerikaner Bocher ist nicht ein solcher Bocher. Es ist ein anderer. Aber es hat gerissen ab dem. Und hat gewaltig Massier gegeben. Schleuke der Chateva. Es ist der Rotzen von einem Menschen, bringt den Menschen zu einer Masse von der Sloche. Ein Mensch hat einen Rotzen, er will etwas. Ist ein Mensch, was reißt sich auf die Dusche, ist solche in die Dusche. Aber ich stellte eine Yeshiva, der Schemel Sekeres, nicht, dass leicht wegstellen in Yeshiva in Baltimore, aber Hashem Ner Israel. Ich bin ein Nedes von den ersten Jahren von Ner Israel. Besser, es ist nicht keine leichte Sache. Weiß wie in Ner Israel sich weggestellt und Mamash Mesiras Nefesh. Shiva Zecher Tzadik Lebrocha und der Rebbetzin Mamash Mesiras Nefesh und Ona Guzme. Hat gedekach, meistens man weiß die History, aber ein Pesach, wir gewinnen beim Shiva, Pesach allein. Wir beginnen von Kanada, gewinnen schwer zum Forum, mit dem Hausgelassen einmal, wir blieben ein Jahr und wir blieben da in Baltimore. Wird sich vorgestellt, der Pesach heint, ist einander mit Pesach. Die Rebbe sind sich in der Woche, so Mama schmeißt Nefesh gewinnen für die Yeshiva. Macht der Pesach vor Woche, die gearbeitet ganze ohne Aschia. Das ist die History von Baltimore. Baltimore hat eine gute History. Nein. It was known as Yerushalayim de America. Als ich gerät nach Baltimore. Das weiß, die History von Baltimore ist es nicht, dass pushet. Nicht so pushet. Baruch Hashem hat es sehr gewinnt. Der Nifta ist gewinnt in Ner Israel. Die wollte alleine beginnen. Er hat sich alles gerissen von Ner Israel. Die Welt machen sie. Irgendeine Yeshiva. Seine Strebung, ich gewinne Le Milo. Le Milo. Er hat verlangt von Bocherim, was ist schwer zu verlangen von Bocherim in Amerika. Aber das gewinnt sein Schiefe, das gewinnt. Das hat gesucht. Beschaß mit Gesetzach von der Gemorre, sagt ein Hadron Allah. Und der selber Nussach, der Kaddish, ist der Kaddish, was man sagt auf ein Nifta. Das ist ein Modern Messias. Gesetzach von der Messichte. Meiner der Yesod ist ein Yesod. Yesod von der Hespedis, und will sich nicht abreißen. Rachman ist dann, ein Mensch geht so, aber es ist ein Quoris, und Mekaber Akorav, lernt er weg von dort. Er reißt sich nicht ab, er will nicht. Er will sich nicht wegreißen. Sie sagt nach Menschen, wenn du lernst, darfst du viel dasselbe. Wenn du lernst, darfst du wissen, dass du lernen. Das ist ein Lernen. Aber du sollst dich nicht kennen, abreißen von dir. So bleiben zugebunden. Zugebunden zu deiner Sache. Hadron Allah mäßig kann sich nicht abreißen von dir. Wir haben es von der Nifter sehr schwer, sich abzureißen. Ich denke, seine meisten Teuvim, ich denke, wie viel hat man Spiel gewesen, wie viel hat getan. Ist ein Mensch, tracht da rein in der Reihen, ist sehr schwer, sich abzureißen. Und das ist, man will bleiben mit jenen. Will bleiben mit jenen Meiles, was gehabt. Begestellt er, machen Teure, das Schemel Seferes. Da hat uns gesagt, wir haben Sache gewinnen, ein Binyan, ein Schein und Fein, eine Teure, es ist zu lernen, es ist nicht so pushet. Nicht so pushet. Wir suchen zusammen ist Salus, ein Mensch steigt und wächst. Hat gar nicht kein Schir. Es hat nicht kein Schir. Das ist Leule im Alami. Das ist Nitzries. Das ist nicht auf eine Minute allein. Jeder Talmud geht raus von der Yeshiva, jeder Teitsch ist. Das ist der Peres von seiner Wegstellung. Peres, was hat gemacht. Ist am Filtersee, auf dem vielen Tag ist Chaives. Auf Gedenken, Das ist die Yesedes Abinyan. Das ist die Yesedes von der Yeshiva. Hashem, Anedim, dann der Yeshiva mit Hashem, führen die Yeshiva bei Atzloche, Rabbeim bei seinem Mossel, bei der Yeshiva bei Leber Nefesh, Rabbeim gegeben die Yeshiva alle Jahren, mit der Messirus, was hat nicht gehen schier. Messirus zu Terra ist Lamaila min HaTeva. Lamaila min HaTeva, Lamaila mit Keches Odom. Das ist nur durch Siyata Dishmaya. Broche ist, da kann Nimshach werden, der Röhr HaTerra da, HaTerra was Tiba gelosen. Hat sie gerissen, was mir kennt, hat gerissen, der Meiler min HaTeva. Sie haben sonst Messirus gewöhnt. Die Welt altmals streben higher und higher. Mir sagt Hashem, die Kommentare soll scheinen, für Jahren zu kommen, sollen alle Sachen sein, zu sehen, bei Akomoso, bei Kadluso, Amen.
Rav Slanger Zatzal saw not only the destruction of Torah during the fires of the Shoah, but also the glory and majesty of the rebuilt Torah in Eretz Yisrael. Rashiva had the spine-tingling zuchus to seek advice and guidance from the brisker Rav Zatzal, and he spoke regularly with giants. To the Chazon Ish, who once scolded Rav Slanger for not coming to see him more often, and when Rav Slanger told the Chazon Ish that he did not want to bother the Rav, the Chazon Ish responded, "Don't worry about me, I can take care of myself." Rav Slanger had a close relationship with the Steipler Gaon. Who did not tremble when they had once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go into the Steipler? Rav Slanger was a Talmud of Rav Chatzkel Abramsky and Rav Eli Lapian. He was face-to-face with the Panovich Rav, heard shmuzin from the great mashkichim of Panovich, the Michtav Melio, Rav Eliezer Dessler, and Rav Chatzkel Levenstein, Zeichat Tzadikim Levracha. And of course, it is well known how the Rashiva had a very close personal relationship with Moran Rav Elazar ben Achaman Shach Zatzal, who guided the Rosh Yeshiva's every step in opening this yeshiva. As the bridge from those Gedolei Olam to our generation, Rav Slanger brought a different perspective to us American teenage Bachrim. He had such a clear view of American society and the then subtle dangers, sadly today they're not so subtle, that the prevalent secular culture presented to a life steeped in Torah. I'm not sure everyone saw this side of Rav Slanger, but he had a tremendous sense of humor. And he used humor to emphasize to us Talmidim some of the plain silliness of American eating habits, pastimes, and culture. I must admit that my Chaverim and I did not always appreciate or understand what he was imparting to us at our young age. But it made an indelible reshim on us, and years later, as we matured, we learned to appreciate what the Rosh Yeshiva so clearly saw. He always had the ability to nigash el ha'arafel, to look straight into the fog and cloudiness that is outside society and see Asher Sham Elokim, know the pitfalls and how to follow the Derech HaTorah as we seek to grow as Avdei Hashem. Mori V'Rabbi Rav Heinemann Shlita was the 12th grade Rebbe for decades. During the first 10 or 15 years or so, the Rav Slanger was the 11th grade Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael. They were neighbors on Yeshiva Lane for many years and very close Yedidim. It is a kavod to hear from Rav Heinemann.
Birshus, the Rosh Yeshiva and the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbanim, Bnei Torah. Someone once asked the Chazon Ish, he had a son who he wanted to send to a yeshiva. He asked the Chazon Ish, which is the best yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael? The Chazon Ish answered, every yeshiva is the best yeshiva. It depends for whom. Some people, some Bachrim, may need chizuk in Yerushalayim, Musa, davening, hasmada, bekiyas, lamdas, pilpul, dibul chaverim. Every yeshiva has something else to offer. Every yeshiva is the best yeshiva. In the beginning of Parshas Yisro, the Rashi says that Yisro had 7 names. Yeser, al shem sheyita parsha achas b'Torah. He had a name Yeser because he added a parsha in the Torah. What was the parsha in the Torah? V'ata techzeh. Now, if you take a look in the Torah, what Yisro started much earlier than that. He says, "Vayema chesem Moshe elav lo'tayv hadavar asher ato Moshe novel tibo gam ato gam kol Moshe imach ki kovei mincha davar lesucha asois ladecha ato shma v'koli yotzcha v'hir kim imach hey ato mulam." Well, okay, ves atos you bring them more kim. Vis hata esem Torah mitzvahs without esem sadar sheyachba and so on. Then starts Vata Techse. Why did Rashi say in the middle? Vata Techse, that's the parsha. And it's only 3 psukim from Vata Techse to what he finished. There's 4 psukim before that. So there's a teretz that said in the name of the Chiddush Rim, said like this. Till V'ata Techse, what Yisro was saying was a critique. He said, Lo'itayv hadavar she'ata oseh. This is not good. Novel tibo gam ato gam omaseh shemach ki kol v'lucha hadavar lesucha asar ladecha. He said, he was complaining. Now, when you stop after Sechse, he was saying something positive. This is the Eitzah. This is what you should do. For criticizing, anyone can criticize. You don't get any special points for criticizing. You don't get a special name for criticizing. You say something positive, something constructive, for that you get a special name. Yes, Sheyita Parashachas B'Torah. So Baruch Hashem, before this yeshiva was started, Baltimore had the best yeshivas. But Rav Slanger, Zaysa Levracha, wanted to make another best yeshiva, which will serve a different type of bacha. So he didn't just criticize the existing yeshiva, say there's something missing here. He did something about it. He made another yeshiva. It was constructive. So for that, you get special points. You get a special name. This is something fantastic which was done. He was an Ish Emes, and he hated Sheker. He hated Krumkeit. Everything had to be up. This one says Mosayim Shali, the other one says Mosayim Shali. So the Mishnah says that they're only arguing about the other 100 the Moida each one gets. So you give 100 to each one, and the other 100, yemunach ad sheyovo el yo. Rabbi Yossi says, my Ramai, so I'll call yemunach ad sheyovo el yo. So the question is, if El Yo comes and says it belongs to this person, we will trust him? The halacha is, Api Shnai made him Yachim Dava, you need to aid him. So, how will we trust El Yo? Just because he says it belongs to this person. So it's all a terrorist. But that's not the pshat. When El Yo comes, and he's going to be mevasa the coming of the Mashiach. And that will eventually become involved in the building of the Beis HaMikdash, will become much closer to Rebbeinu Shalom. All the Gashmiistic things don't have the same meaning anymore. People are going to be honest. It's not going to be the same it was before. So then, if they're still alive, these two people having machlekes, when El Yo comes, they'll be honest and they'll be murder. The one who did tying the sheker is going to be murdered. But even if they're not around anymore, for $100 we're going to make a machlekes. Does it pay to make a machlekes? $100 gashmias. It's not important. The main thing is ruchnius. When El Yo comes. So the Gemara doesn't say the El Yo will say who it's supposed to be. The Mishnah just says, Yemunach ad sheyovo El Yo. When El Yo comes, there won't be. Take the $100. It's mine. Doesn't make any difference. We're not going to fight about $100. Now, I think that if the whole world would be full of people like the Rav Slanger, Zechariah Bracha, even though we need El Yo for other reasons, for this we don't need El Yo. They're ready before El Yo comes. There's not going to be any machlekes about $100. These people on the high madrega, ruchnis is their interest. What happens with this is not important. They'll say the emes, and even if they're not around anymore to know who's the emes, there's not going to be any machlekes about money. The whole shah will all be about ruchnius. Even though that the Rashiv Rav Slanger, Zechariah Bracha, was a Baal Yisurim, it was never noticeable on him, not on his face, and not on his anhaga, and not the way that he spoke, that he had any problems. He was such a pleasant person, and he was a happy person. Sameach b'chelkai. And he was a Kabbal's kol adam b'seva pon yafas. It didn't matter if he was a small child, or it doesn't matter if he was an elderly gentleman, he was an amoras, a Talmid Chacham, a Yid, or even not a Yid. Anyone that was Nivra B'Tzelem Elokim, he was machabed him, like it's roy to machabed someone who's created B'Tzelem Elokim. The Chazal say, Ezeu Asher Hasameach B'Chalkai. Who is rich if he's happy with what he has? If we were trying to understand how rich Rav Slanger was, in the way that Chazal looked at it, he would be an Asher Muflak. He was really Sameach B'Chalkai. Ramah in Yerdea says that a person should not give his child to two children to the same sandik, because the sandik is like Makta Keteris, and the Keteris was only given to one kohen once during his lifetime, because the Keteris was ma'asheres. People got rich from this mitzvah of bringing the Keteris and want to give everyone a chance. So therefore, if we use someone for signing once, you should not use them for signing the second time. So they once asked the stipler, you've been a sandik already a couple of thousand times during a lifetime. But the stipler lived in a very modest home. He lived with dachkus. Where's your ashiras? He said, sometimes he said, his son, Reb Chaim, is his ashiras. And sometimes he said that his Sfarim, the Kilos Yaakov, which he wrote on Shas, that is his ashiras. So I think that the Hershey Rav Slanger, Zaytzal Bracha, could show this yeshiva, the yeshiva that he built, and it wasn't easy to make a yeshiva, especially when there was a yeshiva here already, that he can say, this is his ashiras. This is a real ashiras. This is a ruchnistic ashiras. So he really built with hard work. Everything's been Hashemayim, but he did it. The Gashmias of it, the Ruchnis of it, was all his doing. He built it with the Rishus of the Rosh Hashiva Bnei Yisrael. He didn't want to get into any fights. As I said before, he built it with the bracha of Rav Shach and other Gedolim. And since he put his kaiches in it. It's not easy, very difficult. He did it, and because he had such a strong connection with the Gedolim of the past dar, with the Chazon Ish and the Stipler, Rav Shach, the Briskerov, and other Gedolim, as we heard before, he had this kayach to transmit the hashkafas, ha-Torah, and how a ben Torah should conduct himself, and how he should learn, and how yeshiva should be built. He learned from them, and he gave it over to his Talmidim. About the importance of bitachon and emunah in the Rebbeinu Shalom, about davening to the Rebbeinu Shalom, Yir Shemayim, Musa. He gave this over to his Talmidim, because every Gadol B'Yisrael was also a Gadol, not only in Torah, but he was also a Gadol in Yir Shemayim and in Tefillah. I remember when my Rosh Hashiva, Rabban Kotler Zechatzal Livracha, was nifta, so Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky spoke at the Levaya, and he said my Rosh Hashiva held the whole yeshiva together. So the question was, now that it was nifta, maybe the yeshiva would fall apart. He said, if they'll keep together and be stark, it would be possible for the yeshiva to continue. What happened? The Rebbeinu Shalom saw fit that maybe the time was nifta the yeshiva, maybe at 100 bachrim. The next month, it was nifta in Kislev, and in Pesach, the yeshiva became 50% bigger. And from then on, it kept on becoming bigger until it is what it is today. Gedolim tzadikim misasam yosem mi b'chayeihem. Same thing is over here. Baruch Hashem, the yeshiva is nimshach, with Shem Hila. It should be continue. Ken Yosef, the Shem the Seferis.
when we were in Rav Schlanger's shir in the years that followed, we of course had many opportunities to be at the Schlanger home at 401 Yeshiva Lane and interact with the family. Although several years younger than us, as the only son, Rabbi Yosef naturally became close with the Bachrim. Rabbi Yosef is an outstanding Talmid Chacham in his own right, who learned by and developed a close kesher to Gedolei Eretz Yisrael for many years. Rabbi Yosef stood by his father as Rav Slanger built the yeshiva and has had a hashpah on the Talmidim. It is a kavod to hear from Rabbi Yosef.
Chazal tell us that after a year, person's nishkach min alev, and that continues, and that allows him to continue in life, because if a person would be bavelis all the time for all the people who were close to him, life would be very difficult. So there's a kasha that I didn't understand, and I'm holding by the yortzeit, and I really don't feel any more different than the very beginning of the Avelis. So this would seem to be a steer to what Chazal say, or something wrong with my emotions. Till I saw a Meridige Meise in Kelm. When the Alter from Kelm was nifter, so they were Memana, his nephew and his son-in-law. His name was Abeleib, and he was a Godel Shebegdolim, Mamash Godel Shebegdolim. He was the Pe'er of Gans of the whole Oil Matera. And 2 years later, it was a terrible tragedy that he was nifter. So Dessler said that his father came to Reb Menachem Zev, to the Alter son, who was now Rosh Yeshiva, and to Reb Daniel, and he said to them, "What's wrong?" I said, "It's already 2 years. After a year, you have to let go." That's what Chazal say. So he said, "Meridik Yisayid." He said, that Yisayid, Nachum Velvel told him, that Yisayid that Chazal tell us that a person forgets after a year, that's only if you left somebody like him, anywhere. So long as there's somebody left in the world out there, a person senses that there's somebody there who can take over, so to speak. But maybe sometimes as a person, when a person knows who he knows very well, it's hard to imagine that type of a Hanhaga, all the Rosh Yeshivas were saying. We have in Perek Shira, it says, that Yom l'yom yabi'a emer v'layla l'layla yachabedas. That's the shira. That's the shira of the Laila. So if that's the shira of the Laila, l'chayra, it would have been more appropriate to say the shira of the Laila is l'layla l'layla yachabedas. What's the aim? L'yem yebi aimer. Furthermore, if you're being minor b'hoilech, we know that we begin being minor from the nighttime. So you should have started the other way around. That you talk about the Laila and then the Yom. Why are you talking about the Yom and the Laila? Could be that Yom and Laila are not what we think they are. That's not what David HaMelech meant, and that's not what the shir is. Yom liyom, the Yom is an gute Tag von Leben. Yom, sun's out, it's beautiful, things are good. And Laila is when things are not good. Things are not good with Laila. So the shira is that when a person has a very difficult time in his life, and who doesn't? Very difficult times. You need the Rebbeinu Shalom. So the person wakes up in the morning, he's had a very difficult couple of weeks and whatever. He says, you know what? I'm gonna go and have my connection to Rebbeinu Shalom. It doesn't work that way. You can't just, it's not like a telephone where you put in a quarter, in the old days, you put in a quarter and all of a sudden, you have a connection because you decided you want a connection. It doesn't work that way. How does it work? If in the good times, you always remembered to thank the Rebbeinu Shalom, then you're a person with a reservoir of emunah and bitochen, and then you could have Laila Chavedas. It's a stroll. My uncle, the youngest brother, he got letters from my father's Zatzal sent him, and he made them large so you should be able to see them. And I read the letter, just the first letter, and it was talking about how wonderful things are and how excellent, things are going so well, Baruch Hashem, and there's such a wonderful shefa, etc., etc. And I know the days, and I know the year, and it was a terrible year. It's terrible. Okay? There's no way to explain it. It was a terrible year. In the house, it was. I don't know how he did what he did, but I know that it wasn't good. So my high. I always wondered, an interesting question. Maybe somebody has an answer for me. I never heard of anybody who was from that Kufa. Let's say there were 350 yeshiva bachur when he was a bachur. 350, 400 maybe, let's say, right? He, of all the people that I know, had a deep relationship with the Stipler, and with the Lapian, with all the Gedalim, everyone, the Chazon Ish, the Skurov. Why him more than anybody else? And sometimes I think that maybe it was because that The Rebbeinu Shalom wanted to give him the opportunity to see what it means to always be b'simcha. Because the Rebbeinu Shalom wants that. That was something each one with his own way of doing things. He was able to get all that from all these gedolim that he had. So memela for him, it was taka yom l'yom yebi aimer, and that he learned from his rebbeim, and the laila chavadas, the shvere zeiten, he was able to overcome. Medrash says that by the Churban Bayis Rishon, that the Rebbeinu was crying. He was going through the Beis Hamikdash, and he was crying. And the Gemara says, "Ba matatrin v'nafal apanav." Matatrin is the malach, and he told the Rebbeinu, if you don't stop crying, I'm going to go to a place where you can't find me, and I'll keep crying, and I'll cry. They would have some kind of an effect. And how do you define the tzar the Rebbeinu Shalom had? He says, "Ba'isa shaya HaKadosh Baruch Hu beicha v'aimer oili al beis bonai." He says, it's a terrible thing. He says, "Ani deime hayoyim la'adam she'ari ben yechidi v'asa le'chuba u'meis b'teichu pasai v'ein li ke'ev le'alai v'le'adonai." I have nobody to be menachem me. I need somebody to be menachem me. He said he felt like he had an only son. He brought him in a chuppah. All of a sudden, he got a terrible sickness underneath the chuppah, and he died. And there's nobody here to be menachem me. So he said, Yirmiyah, obviously you can't do it, but go get the Avos, Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov, and go get Moshe Rabbeinu. So he went to the Avos, and they asked him why, what are you calling us? And he said, I'm not sure, I don't know. Because he was afraid that it was under your watch that this happened. It was under your watch. And each one of them had a bezundra taina and tefillah to their Rebbeinu Shalom. I just want to be back to one akuda before we go weiter, and that is the author from Kelm asks Akasha. He says, "What's epis that we find that Leah had 6 children, Rachel only had 2. Leah had Kahuna, Leviah, Yisrael. She had everything. Why did Rachel have to suffer so terribly? What? So he says, Davar. He says, because she got covered. Because she got covered. Because she got covered, she had to suffer. So that was her lot. For wanting covered, for experiencing covered. Not even wanting, she didn't want it. But we find the Merida Gazette. Yankov knew about this, and he continued to make her the Akeres Abayis. She was the Akeres Abayis when it came to Esav. He put her in the back, so she shouldn't. He saw what happened. If out from Kalman understood what happened, so certainly Yankov understood what happened. So he went into all the others, and each one of the others had a different time of why he should why he should be, the Rebbeinu should look at him and see what I did, so you can also be Megagal Schus. And Avraham Avinu said, you told me that I'm going to have a child, and then you told me to be makriv him, and I was ready to be makriv him. Yitzchak said, same thing. I was ready to be makriv myself as a korban. And Yankov said, I had shrek l'chatzar gidul bonim, and Moshe said, I'm leading Klal Yisrael for 40 years, and there's no. Finally, at the end, you tell me that I can't get into Klal Yisrael. I can't get into Eretz Yisrael after leading for 40 years with such great difficulty. So the Gemara says like this. So the Gemara says like this. This is a Daven Naira. Says, Ba'isa Shah, Kaf Tzarachel Imenu L'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'amar Ribbani Shel Olam, Kol v'yadu l'fanecha sheyankev v'avdecha ohav ahava yaseira. He wanted me. V'avad b'shvil la'aba sheva shanim. Ukshishlim lois and sheva shanim, when those 7 years were finished, and it was time to get married. That means like in 5 minutes. Yeah. I heard he's going to go ahead and he's going to switch me. And I was devastated, she said, because I know that he could outwit anybody. That's what I'm going to be stuck with. She says, Masarti loy simon. She gave him a simon. She yakir beinay ben achaisa kadesh lo yuchal avi lech lifeni. Then she goes on to say that when she came in, she realized what kind of tsar her sister is going to have. So she went underneath the bed, and Leah was on top of the bed, and anytime Yaakov asked something, she would answer, terrible b'zaynis, horrible. She says, the man ishani basu b'dam v'ofer v'efer le'kinesi l'tzara shaliv le'tzisiya l'busha b'cherpo v'atamelachai b'kayam. So Rebbeinu Shalom said, Koyamar Hashem, Kol B'Rama Nishma, Nehi B'chis Amrurim, V'ochel Mavak Al Boneam, Menu L'Nochem Al Boneam. Koyamar Hashem, Yini Kolech Mibechi, V'naich Midima, one of the most famous midrashim, Ki Yesh Sachel L'Fulosech, Ksiv Yesh Tikva L'Achlisech Min Hashem, V'shavel L'Gvulam. So what was it about Rachel that was so unique? All the other ones also, the others and Moshe, all had very valid points for themselves that they should be able to be women for Klal Yisrael. And second of all, by all the other others, they had to be told. And she, Ba'isha Shakaf to Rachel, doesn't say he went to Rachel. He wasn't sent to get Rachel. Rachel got up on her own. And the reason why she got up on her own is because she had a meridic gefühl for the tsar of somebody else. She made up with her husband Yankov that there's going to be Simonim. Mamish, right before, able to feel all these things as a person who's different. All the others, Moshe Rabbeinu, they were all talking about things that they were commanded to do, and they said they did. So Mele, Rebbe said, that's not what I'm looking for. Rebbe said, I'm looking for somebody who doesn't need any prompt, doesn't need anybody to tell him what's going on. I'm looking for somebody who's going to be Mikabo, that which is going on to Klal Yisrael. That was the Koyach HaBracha. And sometimes we find that amongst ourselves, there are others that I remember with my father, there would be times that I'd be sitting and learning, and all of a sudden he gets up, he looks like all the way over there, and he says, wait a minute. He says, and he comes back, and he tells me, he says, this person is mamish subrach, and we have to do something for him. I would have passed by this person 50 times, I would have had wouldn't have had a clue that this person is in such tzar. Yeah, he had a good feel. He had a certain good feel for other people. Where he got it from, I don't know. But it's a very big schus. There's Hashem to all the others who also can do these things, and will help those who are in the most should be like everybody else.
Until a year ago, it was certainly not oil al adas of anyone close to Rav Slanger that Rav Slanger would have a successor as Rosh Yeshiva of this glorious yeshiva anytime soon. Rav Slanger's vibrancy, physical strength, as anyone who shook his hand felt, his bright smile and twinkly eyes allowed us mortals to think we would stay that way until the Geula. But as HaKadosh Baruch Hu always prepares the refuah before the baka, he was Mesovev and Eidim of the Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal, who with his vast Yedias HaTorah, Lomdus, Pikchus, ability to relate to the Talmidim Rebbeim, and deep sense of Achrayus, with the support of the Rebbetzin and the family, and the brachas of the Gedolim, stepped into the void created by the Patir of the Rosh Yeshiva. This is a great covet to call upon the Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Chaim Cohen Shlita, to conclude this Kinas Zikaron. Ayoin Kotze, and Shmoshes is Kotze. Amlocha Merube, Poyel im Atzeilin, Poyel al Kolponim. The Poyel is an Atzel. The Malach is a schwere Malacha. Sacha Harbei, Balabai is Deiche. Ich gebe HaKoros HaToiv kann ich. On behalf of the Mishpacha and the Yeshiva, first and foremost, Philadelphia Rosh Yeshiva, Goyner Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky Shlita, whose presence and Bar Merei
a made to the close kesher he had for decades. The Shve, the Yeshiva Zatzal. And to the yeshiva that continues to receive his chizuk and adracha, especially since the petira of the Yeshiva Zatzal. Much appreciation also to the Yeshiva of Nei Yisrael, Agoyin Rav Baron Feldman Shlita, Agoyin Rav Moshe Heinemann Shlita, the Divrei Zikaron, to all the Chashvei Rabbanim, and Kroivim, and Kuravim, Ahuvim, V'reim, and Talmidim of the Yeshiva Zatzal. V'yat olis al kulana is a pasuk that's describing the Torah. So to all the Ramim, the Rabbeim of our Yeshiva, whose decades of Abbatz's Torah, Mesias Nefesh, for every Talmud, every day, is the actualization of the vision and the hashkafis of the Shve Zatzal. A Yotzeit is be'emes, the beginning of a Nechama Shleima, following as it does the successive periods of Avelus and Nechama, of Shiva and Shloshim and Yud Beis Chodesh. What is the nature of this Nechama? Shve Zatzal enjoyed a very close, extremely close kesher with his Mechut and Yibad L'chaim. My father soll sein gesund. Avi Meir V'Rabi Shlita. Because he's unfortunately unable to be here today, I wanted to begin with a vart, a taich of his on the inyan of Nechama. Begin and end. Hamochi Menachem Eschem V'Sor Sha'avei L'Tzim V'Yerushalayim. So there's a kinui of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not such a common kinui, of Hamokai, B'dafke, when it discusses, when Chazal are discussing Nechama. What's epis the kinui of Hamokai in the context of Nechama? Chazal state Hamokai is Shu Mekayma Shal Olam, Ve'ena Olam Mekayma. Das heißt, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the source and the space of unsere ganze Metzias, and we're defined and identified by Him completely. The greatest need of Nechama is because of a tsar of separation, because of the uncertainty that such a separation it surrounds a petira as it does all tzaras. So when we comfort Avelim by saying Hamokai Menachem, it's by expressing a larger truth. And the emes is that ultimately we are still and the emes all within the same makom. And then upon deeper reflection, and reflection is the deeper meaning of the word Nechama, that we are the emes all together in the Nechama-dike embrace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, within which what had appeared as a dayan emes, as a din emes, is be'emes Baruch HaTov HaMeitiv. Pasuk steht, Ki HaMakom Asher To'omed Olav Admas Koideshu. Es gewähnt Har Chayrev, Har Sinai. Steht in Cheskuni that the makom of the eventual giving of the Torah even before the giving of the Torah. When the Malach, Kodesh Baruch Hu, was speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu, Avdei Mokoim, it's already be'etzim, Shoshana Mokoim Kodesh of Gilui Shechina. And it remains so even after the Nevuah is over. Loichein, most Nevuahs, it's a Mokim Kodesh, b'meshach the Nevuah. But once the Nevuah is over, it's Bayalmei Olav Elikim B'Mokoim Asher Diber Ita. Is das heißt in Cheskuni is Mevuah. As le'inyan Kedushas HaMokoim, Mizogin Hachona, Hazmon is Milsehi. The preparation for Kedusha is Gufa what invests in Mokoim with the Mahus and the Madregas of that Kedusha. Norachayim HaKadosh, Soif Pashas B'Shalach, the Pasuk Hinni Oymed L'Fonecha Latzur B'Chayrev, the Zelbe Mokoim, that same Mokoim of Chayrev, steht Norachayim, Zel Shoynai, Ki Afal Pi, Shemaloi Chol Haaretz Kvoidai B'Tmidus, Be'ein Hishtanus Mokoim, Mikol Mokoim Yesh Mokoim, Shetigdel Boi Hashra Shchinosa Yizbarach. For one of two reasons. There are Mekaimis that are special, that they have more than the usual share of Malay Chol Haaretz Kvoidai. For one of two reasons. Dr. Arachaim HaKadosh, Oy, Kvi Mailas Hachonis HaMokoim, Ki Mokoim HaMekudesh, Weil es ist da Hachona, it's a Mokoim that would be meichen as a Mokoim Mekudesh. It's not just a temporary Nevuah, it's not just a temporary time of Kedusha, but it's a Mokoim Kedusha, Oy kifi hashruyim b'soich, or because the shruyim, those that are shari in that mokim kedusha, ki pole mimcha davar la mishpat, steht v'kamta v'alisa al hamakoy. When it came time to paskin hashaylu with a bezin hagadol, and he was a machlokes, so this had to be taken care of in the hechste mokim kedusha in the world. Torah shemisham yotze ha'ira Yisrael could only be in the mokim melamed shehamokim gaidem. The mokim hamikdash is the place in which the Torah has its mokim. A mikdash or a mikdash ma'at like this yeshiva is because of these two reasons is invested with the Kedusha. Firstly, because of the Yeshiva Zatzal's literally unending, never-ending Mesias Nefesh, to be Meichen, to be Mizamein, a pure Mokin Kaddish. At 83 years old, still mamish via younger man, until his last breath. Das heißt Meichen sein. And secondly, because of the Amelus, the years and years of the Amelus of the Shruyim B'Soichai, the Bnei HaYeshiva, unsere Bnei HaYeshiva, that devote themselves single-mindedly to be Mekadesh Shem Shemayim in this world, in this city, in this yeshiva, al yidei the Torah and the Tefillah, that the Yeshiva Zatzal was meichem b'shvila. Es nimtze shehu mekoymai shel ha-yeshiva ve'ein ha-yeshiva mekoymai. Wir darf wissen, the Choshve B'nai HaYeshiva, each and every encounter Each and every aliyah of ours, b'chol davar shebekdusha, is a shutvis of Gilui Kedushasa Yizbarach between the neshama of the Reshiva Zatzal, who is Mekayim Da'achana, who is Meichem HaMokim Shel Kol Davar Shebekdusha, HaSid Aliyah Ispai, and the Kedushas HaTorah and the Tefillah of those that are Shruyim B'Seicha. Together we will continue to be Ma'isiv in the Kedusha of this Admas Kodesh, the Doirei Doiris, Bez Hashem Yisbarach. Every time, every moment that we have an experience of Kirvas Elikim of Tefillah, every moment we are Oile and Steig in Avonas HaTorah, every moment that we're koine another Masechta. As the Olam today made numerous, countless kemat, li'ayin harim, siyumim, Masechtes and Miktzayis and Torah. We uplift ourselves under Roshiva's Neshama Tahira. And the Adama Asher Anu Oimdin Maleha is Nitaisiv and Nitaisiv Yaisiv B'Kedush. Loyalecha HaMalacha Ligma steht nach dem Pekayavis, after the Mishnah of Hayom Kotzer. HaMalacha Merubah, aber lo HaMalacha Ligma. Aber es ist alleinu Ligma. There's no greater representation, dogma, musahaskel, of the Reshiva Zatzal. And the Maimon Chazal of Lo Ya'alecha HaMalacha Ligma, aber v'yata chaydim, yata ben chaydim, yibatel mimen. So the resultant Hashras Hashchina Sha'amakim Gaidim in this yeshiva, Mitzvah Hashem, becoming increasingly greater nachama for us all, especially for the Rebbetzin and Shatichya and the entire Mishpacha. And it should be Ratzon of Hashem Yisbarach that Hamakim, to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and this Makim, this yeshiva, that's a reflection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is Mekaymai HaMufchisha Ba'olamai. This Makom will be a source of true Nechama. Sasha Avelitzian V'Yerushalayim Ki Mitzian Teitzei Torah U'Dvar Hashem V'Yerushalayim. Maybe Nifta be a Melitz Yosha. So the Reshiva Zatzal should be a Melitz Yosha for the Mishpacha and the Bnei HaYeshiva U'Valitzian Goya. May it be a Amen.